Jeremiah. This is Jeremiah. We're going to get into the great harlot today a little. I'm going to talk about the great harlot, and this should be video 72, hopefully, and we're probably looking at lesson 41. And this is New Covenant, and you've just tuned into New Covenant. And this is Jeremiah, and today we're going to get into, we're going to make an argument that Rome is the great harlot today. And there are many theories out there. Some people say that actually Jerusalem is the great harlot and the city of Babylon. And I'm going along with a lot of the Christian brethren, and I'm going to say that the Vatican is probably the great harlot. And I'm going to point that out, just to share that with you. And that's all we're going to do right now. And let's get started. This is Jeremiah, and I am on fire. We're here to please the Lord. That's our goal when we get up in the morning. And that's our goal when we go to bed at night. And there may be some times when you do not please the Lord, but we're here to encourage you to continue to pray and seek God's mercy, and do like David and continue to pray for God's mercy. This is what makes King David, the grandfather of Jesus Christ in the flesh, so significant. It's this living relationship ongoing in real time, where you are acknowledging the flow of mercy towards you, and that coming from the loving kindness of the Lord. This is something that needs to be done, and constantly. And this is what makes David so critical. It's just absolutely critical that we continue to read the book of Psalms and infuse it into our lessons. As a matter of fact, touching that very subject, Jeremiah here at New Covenant, this is New Covenant you tuned into. And here at New Covenant, I'm going to be taking a break after a couple of these videos, probably video 73, I'm going to take a break. And for those of you who are following along, and I won't go into a lot of administrative stuff with you. What I do with the ministry is not necessarily of any importance to you, but I'm going to really start getting into David quite a bit. We're going to really start getting into this real-time emotional relationship aspect to Christianity, which David does better than anybody. And we're here to have a cognitive thinking approach to Christianity, but we're also here to have an emotional attachment. Now, being it is that I am a Bible teacher and I'm not your personal individual counselor, so to speak, as a pastor or something along those lines, I stay away from a lot of personal things. I think I've gone overboard, but it's okay to be just slightly personal. I used to tell some of my students they had so many questions. I taught the kids, and we teach each other even as adults, that you want to keep barriers up for a lot of reasons when you don't know people personally. And even when you know people personally, you have to be careful. But this is a teaching ministry, and I'm supposed to basically stick to the text, and creating some sort of emotional environment is not something that I want to cultivate. However, we must not divorce ourselves from some emotion. And this is okay, I think psychologically. So Anyway, Jeremiah is here. He is on fire. We greet you in Jesus' name. And I was just alluding to, or sharing with you, that I'm going to take some time off, and I'm going to start tying in a lot of things pertaining to mercy and the New Testament and sound doctrine. Okay, I'm going to tie in this whole idea of personal compassion to sound doctrine. Now, Paul is quite personal and quite compassionate. Jesus, when he talks, he has a lot of matter-of-fact stuff because he is the master. See, the master has to be careful, or the teacher or the one who is instructing the student, to let the student know that we're not going to live by emotions. This is the problem with getting into emotional things, because people usually take advantage of it, and all of a sudden they're being abusive, but they're being emotional or sincere. I'm sincerely hurting you. That's what people do. I enjoy hurting you, but I'm sincere about a few things. No, you have to be sincere about not hurting me. See, people have to be sincere about not hurting you. You know, you can't give me some emotional smile and then stab me and, you know, whatever. You know, you need to be consistent, and you need to use your head with your emotions and your affections. And a lot of you women out there, and men too, when you're involved with someone in a relationship or even friendships, that doesn't matter. You need to put barriers up around you, and don't cast your kindness before swine. Matthew chapter 7. Don't cast your kindness to swine. Don't do that. You cast your kindness to people in your day-to-day life and your compassion, because I don't want to contradict the end of chapter 5, which is to show mercy and compassion to everybody, but Jesus gives balance to that declaration at the end of chapter 5 when he begins chapter 7. He ends chapter 5 with love everybody under all conditions, and that's what Father does. Then he starts out chapter 7 with essentially, don't go throwing your emotions and your truths everywhere. You know, use your head, you know. Don't cast your pearls. All they're going to do is spit back at you. You know, you don't go into a bar when men are drunk and fighting and try to witness Jesus Christ and share your testimony of what you've been through and the testimony of the Lord and so forth. You don't do that. You wait for the Holy Spirit to pick your spots. You know, Paul was a little knuckle-headed too, in a way. I just gotta go save the old homies. So I'm going back to Jerusalem when he wasn't necessarily supposed to go back there, because they were basically in a knucklehead mood, and it wasn't time to go and see. But we all do these kinds of things. But sometimes it's your own peril. Let's take a break. This is Jeremiah. Let's get going on what I consider to be the great harlot and the city Babylon. Remember, Babylon is a system. There's mother and daughter, or daughters, actually. It's just a system, and it's a lifestyle of the flesh and of pride, and even an aggressive attack on things that are correct, things that are right, things that are holy. Okay? There's replacement and there's anti. I'm going to oppose, and I don't like and I hate you telling me that I need to love people and that I can't kill people. And this is a very, very sad episode, and we're dealing with abnormal psychology, but I'm not going to get into that. Let's get to the actual lesson. of why I consider the Vatican the great harlot, and that sits upon many waters and is drunk with the wrath of the fornication of the killing of the saints and the enjoyment of murder and killing. See, Hitler enjoyed torture and murder. He may not have been human. He might have been like a reptilian or something. You think you know everything. I think I know everything a lot too. I mean, but you don't necessarily know everything. They told me dinosaurs exist. I don't believe there were dinosaurs. I don't care how many bones, fake bones, whatever. You know what? I have a right to think the way I want to think. You don't tell me what to think. When I went to school, the professor said, one professor said, I'm in charge of your grade. Don't you respect me? And what he was saying was, don't I fear him? And I was like, no, I don't fear you. Furthermore, I can go to the dean or something, You're not the final say-so. I had somebody try to get me in trouble in college. I went to the dean, and the dean was on my side. And I corrected the dean in a class before he became dean. I didn't go out of my way to correct him, but I corrected him about commodification. He didn't understand what commodification was. This is what happens when you study and you read. Then you serve the Lord, and then all of a sudden you're on top of your game. Let's put it that way. Sitting around going to Starbucks and watching sports and TV all the time, you're not going to be on top of your game. Sitting around looking for fornication or whatever, and running the streets and whatever, you're not going to learn anything. You're just going to be bozo, the clown. That's where you're going to end up. And that's why I have these lessons here, so we can stop bozos being bozos and people being cognitive, thinking, caring people. Okay? So we're going to get into the Vatican, the great harlot today. The great harlot. And I'm going to give you some characteristics, then I'm going to make a few comments on probably the Jesuit vow. Remember, we greet you in Jesus' name, the only name given among men. There's only one name. I see people online talking about names. Okay, quit it. Okay, 4th grade Bible study. This is 4th grade Bible study, by the way. It's 4th grade. It is. It's 4th grade Bible study when you don't read, do everything in this name, and you come up with something else. Okay, you're not paying attention, some of you. Now, Rome, Vatican, Jesuit army, they have their leaders, they have their minions, they have the papacy, they have the room where Raphael painted the paintings in their Medici offices and what have you. And a lot of people think that these people are figureheads. They are not just figureheads. They do actually implement and have started a lot of laws that exist in your rule books, in your law books. Court proceedings, everything. These people actually are very, very powerful and have been since Constantine gave them power and the power of the sword. So we have teachers and minions, and we have Loyola's introduced in about 200 years after they start this church/synagogue. And we have Catholic, which means world or world church, which means they're embracing the world, and they've always embraced the world. It doesn't matter what kind of God you have, they let you come on in. Any ideology is essentially good, and that's why it's called a harlot. So you're supposed to serve God and serve Him alone. See, you're supposed to serve God and serve Him alone, and that's the only God you're supposed to serve. You're not supposed to be out in the street roaming around, hugging trees like these Oregon people do, and kissing animals and marrying them now in California now. It's a big deal. It's legal, I think, now or something. This is all abnormal psychology that develops from having this xenophilic perspective, and not having the Holy Spirit and having the text of Jesus to guide you. And these are people who are Pergamos, and they are anti-Ephesus, and they are bad, false fake friends, fake marriage, fake union. See, instead of Jeru Shalom, it's Jeru bad. It's Jeru war. We can't have a union here. How are we going to get together if you believe in murder and I believe in love? So the Catholic leaders and so forth, they propose that they're into care and so forth, when in actuality, all they do is make bombs and start wars and so forth. So that makes them a harlot, see, because you're supposed to say, I love care and I love people, and keep your vow. See, that's the point. They come on TV and say that they believe in peace. They have an upside down cross or something, but actually they don't believe in peace at all. In the middle of the night, they're doing freaky stuff. They're signing agreements with Hitler. I have some pictures I can show you of the Vatican in 1933 signing a business deal with Hitler. They're smiling and everything. Remind you, these guys take about 2 hours to 3 hours to get ready every morning. People get them food. People kiss their ring and stuff. These are very sick people. Pretty much all of them, in my opinion. Any man who takes 3 hours to get ready, something's wrong with him. He's not a man, in my opinion. I'll stick to my opinion. I don't care what anybody thinks. I mean, whoop-de-doo as far as I'm concerned. I'm old enough to forge my own opinions, and I stick to them. If people don't agree with me, it doesn't bother me. If you take 3 hours to get ready to go to do your job, whatever you're going to do, 2 hours, and people are kissing your ring and they're wrapping your head and doing all this stuff, and then you're a sick man. You're not a man. That's what you know what you are. You're like a woman to me. Okay, and I'll stand by that. And I know these people have torture chambers, by the way. I can show you some pictures of some actual torture chambers that they used to use on people and stuff. And a lot of these people who are wearing white with upside down crosses coming out on Easter, they're the same ones who are turning the screws on the torture machines. They're the ones in charge. So we have a world church that embraces anything. Oh, I believe in the Ten Commandments. And in the middle of the night, they're murdering somebody. And they're hugging the guy who murders them, who God hates, who God is going to separate from himself permanently. Okay? So we have the papacy bulls, which are very, very important in the history of the world. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Magna Carta and all these documents and these worldwide power events for governments to comply with, they're not Mickey Mouse edicts. I can tell you some things that when you go to court, when you get your birth certificate and all this kind of stuff, a lot of it was started by the Vatican. The kind of paper it uses, the court system, swearing on the Bible or something. See, a lot of these things that you do, you don't realize somebody's forcing you to do that. You're not doing it, and it wasn't necessarily the U.S. government. So we have the papacy bulls that control the world by laws, mandatory compliance, or else. Lincoln, the Pope sent Lincoln a letter telling him that I don't recognize you as the President of the United States. I recognize Jefferson Davis. And he wrote a letter to Jefferson Davis acknowledging him as the President of the United States. He didn't go to Lincoln's funeral. He probably killed Lincoln. And I say that comfortably. Okay? John Wilkes Booth was probably a Jesuit. Let's get into that a little bit. Now, so we have the great harlot, and we have Pergamus, and we have a bad, false union with God. It's not a union. They're declaring that they're the only representatives of God, which is called a vicar. That stands for vicarious. So they're the only ones that represent God. And the lower ones, the so-called fathers, they wear black. Now you have to ask your question, you might want to ask this question, why do they wear black? Black is for funerals. Okay, oh, that's nice. Here comes a man wearing all black today. How are you, sir? Okay, are you trying to depress me or something? Or what is this? Is there a funeral? Then you want me to call you father. Okay, I'm going to do that. When Jesus said, don't call anyone father except your Father in heaven. So you're flunking. You flunked general ed, elementary school of the Bible by telling me to call you father. So you say you represent the Bible, so to speak, or the Magnificat of Mary's God or something, and then you tell me to call you father. And I have movies where the guy calls the guy father and stuff. Now, some of you may consider that a minor infraction. It's not a minor infraction. Let's keep going. So England and Hitler and Muslims and communists and the banks and the military and all of this is basically the beast. Even New York and American corporations are all under right now the International Monetary Fund and the IMF. All your money goes to England and to the Vatican. That's where all your money goes. There is no Bank of America. All of your money goes straight to England, all of it. And they play with it, they laugh with it, and they joke with it, and they send you back after making tons of interest on your money, and they give you 0.01% while they make a trillion a year or something on your money. See? We know what's going on, and I think the Pope has every human being insured for $1 million. So that when you die, he gets $1 million or something. There's a whole lot of stuff going on with this International Monetary Fund where everybody just keeps getting rich except for the people who are low. And God's letting them do it because Adam and Eve sinned, and they wanted to show God their rear end. And God said, "Okay, you want to disregard my commands. This is what you get." And it's the same thing in the command to come to Jesus Christ, because that's the only unforgivable sin, which is what? Which is to reject the Son of God. To reject service to the Son of God when you were commanded to go to him, hear him, and serve him. If you reject that, it's the same thing all over again with Adam and Eve all over again. First you were commanded, don't touch the tree. Now you're commanded, go touch the tree. Either one that you don't do, that's your butt. To put it bluntly, that's you. Let's take a short break. Jeremiah's back. Let's get back to the Vatican, the great harlot. The Vatican City, the great harlot. So England joined Hitler and the Muslims, and all these powerful entities are essentially what we call the beast. And when they call themselves names such as I'm God and all this Invictus stuff that's surfacing, what they're doing is they're blaspheming God by saying that they're gods. And they're putting down Christ, and they're putting down Christians, and they're elevating everyone who supports anti-Christ principles. Anti-love, anti-truth. And this is basically the beast. It's all these powers put together. You know, the Jesuit army started actually in the inception of Catholicism, when Constantine gave them power of the sword, because Constantine was happy with the Catholic so-called church / synagogue of Satan, because he was happy with them, because they started a church that had every god in the church. When you walked into this so-called church, every god was in there. Now Constantine said he wanted the cross essentially to be the foremost god, but you could worship other gods, and he was happy to see all of the gods in the temple. So the transition should have been serve him and serve him alone, but it didn't go that way. And the people who were put in power and positions, the first popes and cardinals and so forth, they were given the power of the sword. They started a Jesuit army, and they could kill, maim, destroy anybody they wanted to, and arrest anybody they wanted to do so. Who they wanted to arrest. And so this is the longest standing army in the history of the world, because they still have a Jesuit army. Now, the Jesuit army is actually more clandestine. It's a hidden army that does things over the telephone. Like the original CIA of the world is probably the Catholic Church in many ways. And they come on TV. The bottom line is that they put up a front as though they are caring individuals. And some of them are. But the point is that essentially the engine and the machine has always joined in with the most wicked people. And for those who don't have eyes to see, they go, "Oh, they're just being friendly with everybody. You know what? You're not nice. They're just nicer than you are." See, no, they just made friends with the Muslims who say it's okay to burn people and watch them burn alive and stuff. Okay, it's in there. It's in the book, the Quran. He knows it's in there. Do you think he cares? No, these leaders are essentially mentally retarded and they're wicked. That's the bottom line, you know. And they're into abnormal psychology big time. They practice a lot of abnormal things. Let's get into that as we finish up the Vatican. Okay, the great harlot, who sitteth upon many waters, and who did make the nations drink of the torture and the destruction through making wars and investing in bombs, destroying the world and destroying people and killing millions of people. The fact that you're taking a picture with Hitler and shaking his hand and signing a paper with Hitler and so forth, one of the most wicked, most brutal individuals that's ever lived, who has killed and destroyed more families and broken more hearts than any human possibly ever existed, and you're hugging this piece of garbage. You're hugging him. I have pictures of them hugging this guy, and a lot of the cardinals Heil Hitlering him. He used to go to Catholic Mass a lot, hang around nuns. Okay, this guy was essentially a Catholic, but the pictures were taken down. But now the pictures are all out about the Vatican joining in with Hitler and so forth. Even from the beginning of the attack on the Spanish people, which was Hitler's first big move, and killing and bombing innocent Spanish people, minding their own business, the Italians, with the Italian people and the Vatican army and the Vatican supported Hitler to do this. And they knew what they were doing. It wasn't as though they were going, "Hey, you're bombing people. I don't like you anymore." No, you're bombing people, and we want to keep supporting you. This is the bottom line. And this is what really ticks people off who have a conscience. Okay, this is not rocket science here. This is 2 and 2 is 4. Okay, this is not rationalize the denominator in calculus or something. This is all simple addition. Okay, this is nothing to come to these conclusions. Okay, it doesn't require a lot of extrapolation. Let's keep going. So the Jesuit army started with Loyola officially. However, it started out in the fourth century AD, and of course it was galvanized by Loyola, which was a whole idea that let's start a really strong army that punishes Protestants, people who don't agree with Catholicism, and kill other people who are minding their own business. This is Satanism. Loyola was a Satanist. My point is that, and we have a college named after this guy. And they have a quote from him in my King James Giant Bible. Because he was slick, just like any other wicked devil. Every now and then he acts normal. And the people who don't have any perceptibility, they just see the nice thing he said. Like they had that movie, that horror movie, where that individual murdered 20 children or something, and then he let one go free, and all the women started liking him. Because he let one go free. This is the kind of emotional reasoning that people do. And it's sad because what about the 20 the guy killed in the movie? You forgot about him because you're living in an emotional world and you're living with blinders. Because I see the Pope coming out with upside down cross and a white uniform doesn't mean that I don't know what he's doing, because they just caught him, and I don't think they really cared, a couple of Easters back here, this is 2019, where they said that Satan was the God of the universe and so forth. And essentially Jesus should suffer over and over again because he needs to be punished or something. I can go into this deeper, but I'm going to keep this at a low level. So we have the Jesuit army, which is started by Loyola, which is to torture men, especially those who don't want to bring in money to the church and who don't want to support the Pope and make him more powerful. That's what this is all about. And a lot of the Inquisition was simply just pick people you don't like and kill them or whatever. And they had stakes that they put up, that they put humans on stakes, and they burned them slowly alive. Okay, this is the Vatican, the great harlot. Some people would kill their family members and visit them in jail before they got burnt alive, so that they wouldn't be go through that absolutely unbelievable pain that must have. Let's let that subject go. So we have torture chambers that are being brought into under this so-called church, and we have a Jesuit oath, which is probably the sickest thing about anything Catholic at all, is the Jesuit oath. I'm going to share some of that with you in a minute, but it's basically the same as the Quran. The Jesuit oath is very similar to the Quran in terms of all of this murder stuff. You know, freelance hitmen. It's okay to torture people. The Catholics for the Pope and Allah for the Muslims. It's okay to burn people alive. Some people try to hide this stuff. I had a classmate named Muhammad. He admitted that was part of the Quran. He admitted it. Well, my goodness, it's nice to see somebody at least admit what they are, isn't it? He basically said, we're murderers, we can kill, and that's part of our program. Well, hip hip hooray to somebody being honest around here. Do you think the Pope is being honest about hiding the Jesuit oath? You can go to any web page or whatever online and look up the Jesuit oath, and you can read it. I'm going to read some of it to you here. Let's get going. You can punish anybody you want to punish. And like I said, the Jesuit oath is very similar to the Quran in terms of being a murder manual. That's what it is. One's for Allah, one's for the Pope. And in 1850, the beast actually joined the harlot officially. The London banks were called into the Vatican City to join in for financial assistance and investments. So they were galvanized. The devil is getting himself together. That's all this is. So from 350 AD to 2019, we have the actual living Catholic Church, which is considered probably to be Babylon, and which is to be the daughter of Babylon probably, and the mother being original Babylon with the Nebus. And then we have the Chaldeans and the Greeks. And the Greeks had Antiochus, the first Antichrist, stuff like that. So anyway, let's move on. So we have all these countries of the world who are now basically forced to put up with the authority that has been given by the devil and other people to essentially become a world of destruction. That's what this is about. To kill and torture people and to make bombs, and this is what the Vatican has feverishly supported, and this is extremely sad stuff. What's sad about it is they try to say that they know Jesus Christ. See, this is the saddest part of the whole thing. You know, and for us to assume that they do have a relationship with Jesus Christ, and based upon their behavior, it is absolutely absurd. I mean, come on. A torture chamber? So the people who say that they represent Christ are the ones who are actually the worst people in the world in many ways. And so the devil said, if I can't beat him, I'll join him. That's what's going on here. So we're under the pretense of what? Peace and white clothing and waving at people and kissing babies. But in the background, you're hugging Hitler and making bombs together with him. And you're sending some of your soldiers to assist him. To make war. And then you rejoice in killing, which is a big part of Revelations chapter 17 and 18, is this enjoyment. The word is fornication, with the enjoyment of torture and killing. I have people I know who watch horror movies, and they're sitting there, they're actually enjoying the horror. Which means they're thinking like the devil. When horror movies became popular in the United States, a lot of people kept trying to say that it was innocent behavior to watch gratuitous violence. People being torn to shreds in slow motion is entertainment. Well, listen, God made that body. Do you think he took his time to make that human body for you to enjoy it being mutilated? See, this is how bad and how sad America has become. It's become a very, very sick place. And a lot of this happened in the 60s. And what's his name, Wasserman, or the gentleman who took over for his dad at Fox or whatever, this major movie studio, he started putting horror movies on. America didn't even have any horror movies until the 50s. And the 60s, there were no horror movies. Nobody ate humans on TV, nothing like that. All of a sudden it comes on TV, now people say, oh, I like this. So that means America went down the toilet and it began to behave like the Vatican and the Muslim stuff. And by the way, I'm not talking to you Muslims, all of you. I'm talking to those of you who actually know what you're reading. Okay, you who know what's in the book. A lot of people who are Muslims, they don't even know, some of them, that it says to burn people alive and stuff. They don't even know it's in there. You got a book, you don't even know what's in your book. I've asked Hindus, what do Hindus believe? They go, oh, I don't know, I'm just a Hindu. I believe in reincarnation. Let's get going. So, all countries of the world are essentially being forced to be destroyers based upon these people. And that's why we have the UN, so the devil can do what he wants to do. And the Lord is letting him do it. That's why the Bible says, and power was given to the beast to do things. See? It's very simple here. Now, so the machine and the war and the making of these products, these war machines, is all something that they're going to rejoice in, because the leaders know that they're the ones who are causing it, along with the devil, and they're rejoicing in the destruction of humans and blowing up of nature. That's a big part of what's going on here when the Bible says, and the wrath of her fornication. In other words, there's anger at people who are related to Jews and Christ because of Christ being the light of the world. They can't help but be mad, because we're producing love your neighbor, care for your neighbor, and they're producing destroy and enjoy, because we're superior and we're Aryan race. So I'm going to cuss you out and scotomize you, which is the standard power figure behavior before you destroy someone, is to put them down so that it makes you feel better psychologically in your abnormal psychological state of psychosis and schizophrenia, that you can produce harm to someone, and you do that by scotomizing them and dehumanizing them and telling them that they're not worthy of any freedom and pursuit, as they say in America here, of happiness. See? The gang members in my community did the same exact thing. The power figure, the murderer, they all say the same thing. The Quran says that we Westerners are worthy of destruction. We don't take care of our children. I know what the Quran says. I'm not Bozo the clown. And so the thing is that what they're doing is they're sodomizing people before they kill them, and they put you down, and those Jews are pigs and whatever, and then you feel better about doing harm to them. That's what the gangs do. Everybody has the same modus operandi. That's the point. Murderers have the same procedure. Whether it's the Vatican and the Pope and making bombs and kissing Hitler, and which is the great harlot in living color. I can show you a picture where the head cardinal, whatever his name is, in 1933, is hugging Hitler and stuff. It's not Photoshop. They didn't have Photoshop too much back then. I think they used early Photoshop for like Kennedy assassination or atomic bombs. Well, there's another Photoshop there, boy. I mean, you talk about Hollywood being used to scare the living daylights out of you, that there are atomic bombs, and I don't even think they can see an atom. I don't buy into stuff. You can buy into it. Jeremiah does not buy into anything. I'm from Missouri, the show me state. The reason I believe in the gospel is because God showed His love to me in my heart. So therefore, it's easy to believe what He says. He showed me. Okay? I'm from Missouri. So the Vatican buys all these war machines, steel from Carnegie and railroad cars to ship Jewish people by the thousands into gas chambers. So the railroad corporations of America help Hitler build the railroads, and then the steel comes from Carnegie, and the gas comes from the Rockefellers to gas the women and children naked going into the building. And the Vatican's in big time support of all this, obviously. And they don't have any compunction or sadness over what they did. I'm talking about while it's going on in World War II. But on Easter, they come out in white clothing and an upside-down bent cross, sitting on a throne that has fire behind it. It's obviously the devil. You can't see what's going on. I have a picture here of a pope who has a man with horns on and stuff. Boy, they're telling you that they are indeed the great harlot. And let's keep going. So we have this pretense, which is what I'm sharing with you. And, the Pope declares Christ, but then he's into the business of bombs and so forth. What are you talking about? And of course, he calls himself vicar, which means, if you read the quotes from these popes, I'm not going to go into their quotes right now, we're almost done. That the ultimate power over all nations is what they say they deserve. And they say they get it from God. What they're saying is that they really believe that the devil's God. See, they're telling you that it's a nice God and it's Jesus Christ related. See, but when you see them hugging and kissing a woman, overdressed, in some statue, and kissing some man's feet, Saint Jude, who will hear your prayers and call him most holy, and everybody's holy and pure. It's nonsense. It's crazy. Okay, so what we have is we have all the nations, all the cities that are under these powers, and a lot of them are under the papacy bulls and Magna Cartas. And I'm not going to go into a lot of that right now. The specific assembly bills and stuff like that, where they are directly related to the Vatican and so forth, and power over you and your money and stuff. Let's move on. So the power of the sword was given to Constantine, and it remains to this day, and it is basically over most of civilization. When they wrote a letter to Lincoln, they told Lincoln that we have power over the entire world, and you're the only one in our way for our international powers. And what they're saying is that God has let America be probably the only country in the world that is civilized, so to speak, that does not have absolute power of the devil over the country. That's the point. There aren't any 20% interest loans. You don't make Americans buy into interest loans and stuff like that. It wasn't in America. But in the early 20th century, all of a sudden, there's credit cards, prices go up, we're in war, and all of a sudden the banks in London are making more money, and Americans are getting robbed blind. The early 20th century, the presidents sold you down the river. There are some apologies by presidents, by the way. You can go online where the presidents apologize. I'm sorry I sold the country down the river, if I can paraphrase what they're saying. I didn't mean to let the Federal Reserve come here and start a war and charge us high interest so we can defend ourselves, so they can make more money on guaranteed loans, and then the people who make the products are supporting Hitler. A lot of them, they call them appeasers. No, that's a traitor. That's not an appeaser. I have a movie where they call they take the top of the end of a torpedo off, and it says "Made in the USA," and it's a Japanese bomb. That's not an appeaser. That's a traitor. American corporations, a lot of them were traitors. You want me to give you some information on that? I'm not going to do that right now. I just gave you some. They're traitors. American corporations that we supported, that we bought food from, that we thought that they would actually be on our side, they supported Hitler. And let me give you one more thing about Hitler. Do you know that the German government was broke after World War I? How did they build such an infrastructure? The Vatican and American corporations and London. That's how. Let's go. So the UN has a giant statue of the Pope right now. A giant statue. So they're telling you who the supreme head is, and obviously calls the shots in the International Monetary Fund, everything. There's probably some debates going on amongst the head devils who might have a few minor arguments, right? The Queen and the Pope, they basically rule just about everything. I think the Queen's carriage, if she sold it on the market with the gold in it, it could probably bring food and water to everyone in Uganda for 1,000,000 years and stuff. You know, greed is big time going on here. Greed. And everyone who is covetous, they're going to be held accountable for it. I mean, I don't care what position you have. And the Pope has millions of dollars on insurance policies on people and stuff. There's a lot of stuff you don't know about, such as the royals control your Social Security money, and they make, I think, $1 trillion a year off of the money that you send to them, and they make $1 trillion a year, something like that. I forgot the exact numbers. Then they send you back $1,000 a month, or $2,000 maximum, or something, or crazy stuff. So the Pope says you can't know Jesus, which is the prime directive of Christianity. So that makes him a heretic. That's what he is. Yeah, recently he said you can't know Jesus Christ. You can't. Which is the prime directive for the Protestant. Okay? So the Vatican declines, declares no Satan worship. You got to leave Vatican City. That's a recent edict that came out. You think I'm playing? You go there, you'll find out. So the Vatican builds an observatory recently and calls it Lucifer. And then they just built a new building that has snake eyes in it, and there's a throne there for the Pope to sit on, and there's fire behind it and stuff. Okay, are you getting this? Okay. The Inquisition had thousands of people burned at the stake, thousands, and they would do it every night. I mean, every day they would just put people on stakes, and people would have dinner and go, oh, they deserve to burn up. They're heretics. When in fact, they were the heretics. That's the kettle calling you black and so forth, right? Yeah, it's absolutely sick. It's just, and you know, what a joke for you to tell me that I'm the heretic and you're the one. I mean, they would even get to the point where money was such a big deal, because remember, it wasn't always money. Some people did not necessarily make money a priority who were involved in the Inquisition, and they had an Inquisition general. One Inquisition general went all the way to Mexico to get one guy from Spain, who was part of the Spanish Inquisition. He went all the way, and he had already killed the guy's sister and chased his parents away. He killed his sister like right in front of him. Then when he went to go join Cortez, he went all the way to Spain to get the guy. Unfortunately for him, one of the guys who was there, Cortez's men, he killed his mother, and he took him out. He didn't get a chance to get the guy he wanted. Why he went after that guy so many miles just to get him? This is this is abnormal psychology, okay? So the Vatican declares Satan as God and all this kind of stuff, and then they build an observatory and call it Lucifer, and they burn thousands of people at a stake, and Loyola and his friends are basically behind this movement, and there's also torture chambers that are going on, and what they're doing is they're giving that Jesuit vow teeth right now, and paganism, of course, still goes on. They're worshiping everybody but a frog in that place. You know, Mary, St. Jude, there's a statue of him, and, you know, a dead statue, they're kissing feet and stuff, and, you know, and there's penance, which is big to the Catholic Church, whereby you can pay for sins by giving money to the Pope, of course. You can get stuff, just like our TV preachers. You give more, you get more, you know, this kind of stuff. Penance. I scraped my knees on the ground and blood came, and God's happy with that, see. And this is all tied in with a lot of different things. I have a picture here of Loyola crushing a Protestant's head, a woman, and it's a statue, and it's on the building. There's a big giant statuette of him crushing a woman's head, and there's a ring around, a halo on his head rather. He's getting forgiven by crushing Protestants. That's part of the Jesuit vow. I can show that to you. Crushing Protestants gets you ahead. But the Pope comes on TV and the cardinals say that they're all kindness and they're just free with everybody. Does the vow reveal that at all? No. We're going to get into this Jesuit vow, which is really the core issue here. John Wilkes Booth was probably someone who took this vow right here. The Jesuit vow. You can read it in the Library of Congress. It's in the Library of Congress how sick the world is. Okay, I mean, you know, the world is a very sick place. Let's take a moment here. We're just about halfway done. Listen, do you realize how sick the world is? You know, the communists say it's okay to kill people at all times who are counter-revolutionary, who are against one class of wage earners. Kill them no matter where they are, children, women, if they're in the way, get them. Che Guevara slaughtered many of innocent women and children with a machine gun. Yet they have pictures of him at Venice Beach, California, where he's a hero of the proletariat. A guy who machine gunned down innocent people is a hero. That's the bottom line. Now, am I happy with rich people abusing people with their power? No. I would agree with Mr. Castro and Che Guevara that it's bad. But to go machine gunning down people, this is sick. And this is communism. This is the revolution will not be televised. You know, this has changed the world for the better, and we just have to kill people. Same for the Muslims, same for the Catholics and the Jesuit vow. Everybody is making excuses to murder people all around the world. The big country of China was that way for a long time when they went into Vietnam and they went into North Korea, and the communists did the same thing, wiping out thousands of people in Russia who weren't believers, as Stalin would say. So they're just wiping out, and then the whole world. And then we have the drug cartel in Central America with Colombian cartel and stuff, selling drugs and wiping people out. And in America, we have abortion on every corner, killing innocent babies. So murder and the world, and they have homosexuals in San Francisco going up and down the street with phallic symbols in their hands, pretty much naked, going down the street. The world is a very, very sick place. We have politicians who have now just been revealed. It's been revealed that they're part of child trafficking. A lot of the head prominent politicians in America. If you can't get it in your head now that the world is a very, very, very sick place. See, that's the point. And we Quakers, we see the world, and we praise God that we have been shielded from all the stuff I'm sharing with you now. So the Inquisition burns thousands of people, and people are having dinner, by the way. I'm not kidding you. Do you realize that they were doing this stuff during the dinner time? They were burning people at the stake, hearing them scream, and they were having dinner? I am not kidding you. And this is how bad a country or a bunch of people can get. Oh, it's okay, they're screaming and burning. They're heretics. They don't like the Pope or something like that. Or, oh, they owe money. Oh, they should have paid their bills. Wow. Because that was part of the Inquisition, was actually they began to call you if you didn't pay a bill or you stole something and so forth, and you didn't pay your whatever taxes, whatever, that you were called a heretic. That was part of the court system in Spain and in other places in Europe. You're not a heretic based upon that. You're a heretic based upon misrepresenting the gospel. That's what happens when people who don't know the Bible take charge. So paganism is a place where Christ is placed amidst every god, every animal, and then he becomes one of the gods, and then you can essentially play with him the way a child plays with so many toys. That's what this is about. And the church in the Synagogue of Satan has real followers of Christ in it. That's why God says, flee Babylon to those who are mine, which obviously you cannot participate in this kneeling to Mary and scraping your knees on the ground to pay for your sins and kissing the Pope's ring and doing all this stuff. There must be some people who are in these circles who are not doing these practices. I've met one or two. And I told them, why don't you leave? They say, well, I don't kneel to the statue. Well, you need to get out of there. That's why it's called a church and a synagogue of Satan, because there are real followers who do not do some of these abominations, who do not take a lot of these things to heart. Can you imagine? The number one command is, thou shalt not have any other gods besides me. You shall not bow down and worship them. And when I was in California especially, they had pictures of Mary all over the place, and she was walking on water and stuff, and they worshiped the woman. That's why people who go there are also harlots. It's not just the great harlot. You're a harlot. You're a harlot if you say, I love Jesus 1 minute. I have a movie where the lady says that she's going to marry Jesus Christ, and then she goes down and kneels down and worships Mary. Well, that's not a marriage. That's adultery. There's a Catholic nun in the movie. It's a very good movie in spite of the hamartia there, the sin. Yeah, she goes, yeah, I'm going to marry Jesus. Yeah, I'm officially engaged. Well, if you're engaged to somebody, why are you kneeling and worshiping someone else? This is pure dum-dum. Is all this is. It's mental retardation at its worst. You're getting an F. And by the way, when I say mental retardation, I mean mental retardation means that you're flunking the class, whatever it is. If you're an electrician, you keep shocking yourself while you're working on the circuit board. You're not getting the wires right. You need to quit playing with the electricity. That's what retard means. It means slower than where you should be. That's what it means. It's not a putting someone down. It's an actual status that you own. That you don't get the sound doctrine of Paul the Apostle. All you're doing is adding, subtracting, twisting, and hiding. That's what people do. So we have Mary is holy. She gives orders to Jesus when he gets crushed all the time. I'm not going to go into that. I need to go into it a little bit, but I'm going to let it go for now, which is what they're actually doing. Remember, this is an adult main sanctuary teaching here. I do not want you who are adults who are listening to my ministry to let this be all in the family thing. Some of the things we talk about, such as the homosexual stuff I talked about a minute ago, children should not have to listen to any of this. About what these homosexuals are doing in Frisco and so forth, running up and down the street naked and playing with toys and stuff. Leave them alone to Bambi. This is not Bambi hour. We have to deal with the sins of Sodom and Gomorrah here, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. It's just that we have to go into some detail, a little bit. We have to. I have to talk about what they did in the Inquisition, which children should leave them out of the Inquisition. I have to talk about saline abortions, where you burn the baby alive, or partial birth, where you take a piece of the human and you sell it to a rich person, like the person did on Fox News here the other day. I want to get a testarossa, so when I dismember the baby alive, I'm going to make sure you get your part, and it's going to be well taken care of. In other words, damn the baby, I'm going to get you a part of the baby, and so I can get a testarossa. And the person was having lunch while they were telling this. I have to do stuff like that. I don't want to do that. But we have to face, we Christians, we're not ostriches. Oh, really? I don't want to talk about bad things. No, you have to. And you have to be a Protestant. You have to protest this stuff. And I don't mean you get all upset. I mean that you have to acknowledge what's going on in your world, face it, and do the best you can to pray and hope that God is going to stop this mess. The Bible says that the Holy Spirit groans, G-R-O-A-N-S. That's why you really can't have this blessed stuff going on. I'm blessed. Well, are you blessed while they're killing babies around the corner? Point is, I want you to be blessed and I want you to be happy. But you can't be in some sort of ostrich blessed state. You can't do that. That's not what a Christian is. Someone who hides from the truth. Someone who's not angry when they find out that someone is abusing someone in any way. And you just forget about it. It doesn't exist. Let's have ice cream and go to bed. No, the Bible says to pray for the rulers, and we're going to pray that these mountains, and we're going to believe that God is going to remove these mountains, their powers that are doing evil things, and we're supposed to pray about it. I've had people come over to my house and they say, why did you support the anti-abortion group, and what is abortion? And I haven't even thought about it. Well, listen, that person is an ostrich. Because if you care about people and you care about things, you're going to participate to make a change. And that is supporting the church, number one. Because when you support the church, you're supporting everyone being confronted that you need to love people and care about people and not be a Quran follower. That's the point. The only way to change the world is to get out there and change it. And if I preach love and care and compassion and forgiveness, and you smite me on the right cheek, I offer you the left cheek, and if someone takes something from you, tell them to take something else, then I am the superior human being based upon my mimicking and copying the Lord Jesus Christ. That makes me the superior human that needs to spread. That's the point. As opposed to the other gentlemen who are spreading. That's the point. Mary's holy, walks on water. She orders Jesus around. So they're worshiping a woman which is to disobey the number one commandment, which says, thou shalt not have any other gods besides me. So can you count to 3, Catholics and so forth? Okay, Trinity is 3. How did you get 4? So we have simple math problems going on here. That's what's going on here. And when Jesus said it is finished, the Greek word is toleo. You can't make Jesus suffer again. It's once for all he suffered. But they believe that it's okay to make him suffer again. And that he is actually suffering. And that when he's suffering, you can get some good things in your life. Sacramento. The holy body of Jesus suffering. And you're part of the machine that makes him suffer. And thereby, it's the same old thing with, what's his name? Loyola crushing someone and becoming a saint. Catholicism essentially violence. Everything. Okay, Jesus is alive and I'm making him suffer again. For the benefit of this and for the benefit of that. And then God owes me stuff because I gave more. When God never owes anybody anything. That's called penance. Like the lady of Fatima who told everybody to go do penance. What's a woman telling you men what to do anyway? That's wrong too. See, it's all wrong. So you earn points by joining this heresy and these perversions, and you don't need a 100% imputation. You go to these graven images and these statues. That's what's going to get you points in heaven and get you what you need and what you want. A man wearing all black, you call him Father. They don't use the prayer model. You pray to St. Jude and tell him he's most holy. Not our Father which art in heaven. No, you took that and put that in the garbage can, and now you're saying that essentially St. Jude is our Father prayer model. You help me, Jude, instead of going directly to Father. Dead men are going to talk to you. Isaiah 48:11. I will not give my glory to another. Popes who say I'm holy, most holy stuff. Do you know that they call him most holy, like he's pure or something? That man goes to the toilet. That man's not pure. And who knows what these guys do in the middle of the night? Upside down crosses and sitting on thrones with fire behind it, and demons that look like they're flying around on the wall and stuff. You can't see that kind of stuff. I will not give my glory to another, period. Let's give Mary glory, okay? Can't you read, some of you out there? You're baptized when you're a baby, okay. When does the Bible say anything about anybody repenting and be baptized as a baby? It's supposed to be repent and be baptized. A 1-year-old baby can't repent. And the Bible says there's one mediator between God and man. How do we get 1,000 mediators? And Jesus doesn't get all the glory. That's what this is all about, isn't it? That's why you know the devil's behind it. Baptizing babies. Oh, let's sprinkle the baby. That's not being baptized. Baptism is a personal commitment of an adult to bury themselves to the world and the pleasures of the world for the building up of Jesus' church, binding up the brokenhearted, setting at liberty those who are captive. Children baptized. So all we have is a lot of a rampant behavior of childhood, childlike, in the backyard stuff going on. And it's very serious, though. And it's no longer a mystery, Babylon. That's the point. I can show you some Hitler pictures here and stuff that would blow some of you guys' minds. I don't know if I should do that, thinking about it, because some of those pictures belong to people, and there are particular rights to pictures, although they're very popular online. So there's all these business deals. Remember, when Hitler joined the Catholic Church for financial reasons and making bombs and making deals with bomb makers and some of these American corporations, which they called appeasers, no, they were traitors. Car corporations giving deals for Hitler for cars and stuff like that. Okay, listen. Point is that we are here to share that this place is essentially a place of witchcraft. That's all it is. And it's full of evil spirits, and they just keep doing everything wrong. And a lot of them know it is. The first thing I alluded to a minute ago was the first thing they did when they made this Concordia in 1933 was all of a sudden all the Spanish people were getting bombed. They were going to cities and taking over the cities. And the Italians were helping Hitler's men. Then there was a Spanish resistance, of course. They hung out in the mountains and so forth because most of the cities were taken over by the Italians who were supporting Hitler. And a lot of Italians were told by Mussolini, El Duce, well, I think what they call it, El Duce, that it's all going to be better by and by. Don't worry about it. And that's what he was telling his men, telling his people. It's not going to be better if you join the most wicked guy in the world to bomb and kill innocent people, and it's not going to be good for you or the people who participate. A lot of Italians did join the Americans as the war went on. They saw what was going on. Let's keep going. So we have one mediator between God and men. That's all out the window. Mystery Babylon is no longer a mystery. Loyola becomes a central figure in this whole idea of crushing Protestants and removing sins. People who are against the Pope, who are against Catholicism and worshiping Mary and so forth, they are the enemy. Which that's why we don't have a mystery anymore as to who the great harlot is in Babylon anymore. Because they're the ones who are crushing the Christian people and the blood of the saints. They are responsible for it. And they're high on it. They're enjoying it. Because devils enjoy wickedness. Just like America all of a sudden in the 60s started enjoying horror movies. Now, if it's a war movie and someone's defending someone and you see a little violence, that's not necessarily gratuitous. But to see people slowly mutilated in movies over and over here in America, it's demonic stuff. Now, people can repent of this stuff if the Lord allows them, but you don't want to go there. It's all addictions to the flesh. So Fatima says you need to have go to the woman that's telling men what to do. And okay, I have a problem with that, right? We have another Ellen G. White thing going on. So they say there's purgatory. No, there's never been any purgatory. There is no place where people can pray for you as to what happens to you eternally. When you die, the Bible says it is appointed for man once to die and then judgment. That's it. It's over. That's what the Bible teaches. Not these quacky people here. And forgiveness is instant and it's done. And Jesus said, where is that? He said, he frankly forgave them both. The word is frankly here. He frankly forgave them both. You're frankly forgiven. It's over. No scraping knees or nothing like that. All that kind of stuff that they got going on in Central America and so forth. So that you can affect people who are dead and, give more money and go and climb a mountain with rocks or something. And no, this is all nonsense. This has nothing to do with salvation and you proving yourself to God. The only thing you prove to God to make sure that you're saved is to offer a life of love of the Son and a hate of wickedness and a love of righteousness. As how that works out specifically, it's ultimately between you and the Lord. Unless you have a pastor or someone who is in charge of you and you get in trouble that way. Since I'm a Bible teacher, I don't get into that. Fortunately. Maybe I'm not man enough for it or something. I don't know. The power of the Holy Spirit could help me do it, but I don't admire that task because pastors and so forth, they have to deal with personal things that go wrong. There's some people who come to church, they're going to disrupt, run off with wives or something, and they have to confront those issues, as Paul had to with the Corinthians, as though he didn't have enough on his plate. So Hitler signs an official concordat of 1933, and the Pope will join the armies and support the bringing of gas to Sobibor and Auschwitz and all these places where they're going to, the gas companies are going to provide gas so that you can burn women and children alive, naked and so forth, and by the hundreds, and bring them in on railroad cars by the hundreds. And you're going to make money off of it, and you don't care because they're already making money on drugs in Afghanistan, whatever. They're making money wherever they can make money. Who cares where it comes from? Money talks, and everything else walks. That's the bottom line with these individuals. So there is no purgatory. They say there's purgatory. Forgiveness is not ongoing. You're frankly forgiven when you repent, and you don't need any of this penance stuff to earn forgiveness or earn favor. You don't need to earn anything. All you need to do is just love the Lord with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Tit-for-tat stuff doesn't exist in the Christian world. And that's why the devil comes after Protestants, because we're actually free. People who aren't free, go get them. People who are free, go get them. We who aren't free. We who are chained, let's go get the ones who are free. And then God lets them come and get you in many ways. Because you build a testimony that you are devoted to innocence and to the law of the Lord, the royal law. You are compliant and you're loving your neighbor as you love yourself, and they're going to come after you. Loyola and his boys. I'm going to read some of that right now here. Let's get to that. So, once again, a lot of this is infidelity, such as I mentioned to you. I mentioned that a lot of these, the Pope was kissing the Quran here not too long ago, and both of these people with their Jesuit oath. Remember, the record of and the body of the letter or the text of the Jesuit oath and the Quran have a lot of the same words. A lot of the same. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't put it past the Catholic Church, since Muhammad came along 500 AD, I wouldn't put it past them that they're the ones who wrote the book, the Quran. The apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. Murderers hang out with murderers. That's the point. Birds of a feather stick together. And the Library of Congress, you can read right there. And in 1850, the Vatican did officially join somewhat the London banks. So you have two head devils getting together. The devil knows he has to control money. That's why there's a big eye on American money. Okay. Torture chambers, details. I might show you some pictures. And we have, like I said, the recent Easter service where they actually said Lucifer was God and stuff. You can go online. This stuff is This stuff is very popular now. And we have, by the way, here's a former priest. Let's give a quote from him. That's William Hogan, who wrote a book. And he says, quote, William Hogan, from my knowledge, these fellows, priests and so forth, there is no more corrupt, licentious body of men in the world, unquote, from William Hogan, who quit the Vatican. A Jesuit oath. Okay. Here's a French proverb. When two Jesuits meet, the devil is always there to make a threesome. So what we have here is we have the biggest lie ever in humanity being perpetrated upon people. And I'm going to spend some time exposing it. And by the way, you don't have to believe that the Vatican is necessarily the great harlot. I'm giving you evidence to support that it is. And I know we're going to step on a lot of toes doing this. A lot of people are not going to be happy about my Quran lesson. They're not going to be happy about the Vatican lesson. The Seventh-day Adventists may not like my Seventh-day Adventist take. I'm going to get some people upset here. We have some other people I've stepped on some toes here. Some demonic witnesses, Jehovah's Witnesses, and so forth. Well, you know what? That's just the way it is. And I'm of the attitude of a lot of Americans. Don't tread on me to a certain point. I'll turn the cheek, but don't tread on me. See, that's the thing about a lot of Americans is that a lot of Americans, I just saw some very brave soldiers here, American soldiers, and in spite of America being controlled by a lot of wicked entities now, big time, it doesn't mean that the soldiers are wicked. That's the point. And furthermore, you know, if a lot of American soldiers are ready to die for the benefit of other people, then a Christian is supposed to have the same attitude. And when what's his name, Patrick Henry, said, "Give me liberty or give me death," okay, that's not a bad way of putting it. Now, since we're not politicians or zealots, we're not going to go 100% in that direction as Christians. We're not supposed to. However, it doesn't mean that we are fully divorced from that. You get the point? In other words, Jesus said, and the Bible talks about zealots, rather. I don't know if Jesus mentioned that, but zealots are people who are politically motivated big time. Well, I'm not necessarily politically motivated. However, it doesn't mean that I hide my head in the ground as an ostrich again, pertaining to things that are political in the world. Or that I won't honor soldiers who go die for this country, even though the country has gone down the toilet, per se. I'm still going to honor the soldiers. And there are still some good politicians. So the point is that it gets a little complicated because and in many ways, Paul calls Christians soldiers. And he told Timothy to man up. In other words, don't back down off the gospel. And that's what I'm doing. And I'm going to speak the gospel. And peradventure, something bad happens to me, it goes on my record. Because I'm supporting the innocent. I'm supporting children and babies with anti-abortion stuff. I'm supporting the good people of America when I do support American values and so forth. So you can't divorce yourself 100% politically. But once again, I want to emphasize the point that I do not do any activities per se, only in sharing that we hate abortion, only that we share that we hate government officials who are tied in with the Vatican, who tell me that they're somewhat Christian or so forth on TV, and yet they hug the Jesuit vow in private and stuff like that. We can see that. Don't try to hide from us. Don't do it. You're wasting your time. Go do something else with your energies. You can't hide anything from people who love the Lord. It's not going to happen. You're wasting your time. You're wasting your time. Let me go over the Jesuit oath here just a little bit. I'm going to show you how sick this oath is, because the Jesuit oath is the center of this whole idea of the great harlot loving violence. Let me bring the point home that they get high, or fornication is the word, on their anger and the hatred of the church and people who love righteousness and innocence, and their hate for that has a certain amount of satisfaction and a certain amount of excitement. That's what the Bible's saying. It's an amelioration. It's a get high for them. Let's put it that way. I get high with a little help from my friends. I get by. That's what it is. Unfortunately, they're not getting the agape high of loving the Lord and loving innocence and loving justice and preaching Christ, which is really getting high. They're on the rodent cage getting high. They're in the little rodent getting the wheel, not going anywhere, but they got a smile on their face. Woo! I'm going somewhere. This is fun. Well, if that's what you call fun, you don't know what real fun is. I'm going to tell you, because real fun is rejoicing in the Holy Spirit, which is innocent and always kind, and not a fake preacher. A lot of this Catholic stuff reminds me a lot of the TV preachers a lot. And this whole apostasy going on. It's all related. When Jesus talked about the Pharisees in Matthew chapter 23, it's all the same thing. Let me give you some Jesuit stuff, and I'm going to stop. I have 20 more pages of Catholicism. I'm not going to go into it. Such as the movies and what they did in the movies that the Catholics are in charge of, like the Passion, stuff like that. I'm going to let all that go. I'm going to stop right here. This is enough on the Vatican, the great harlot. Okay? And once again, a lot of people are going to get upset, whatever. Listen, like I said before, Americans are, in general, a lot of them are Quaker people, are Quakerish, and they're going to stand up for what's right. Even people who are backslidden and people who are not part of the church. Sometimes they'll stand up for what's right, and they'll go to a ball game and get politically motivated and neoclassical, and and they'll get emotional about America and so forth, and even people who might be going downstairs. But the point is that standing up for what's right, give me liberty or give me death. In other words, I'm going to stand up for what's right, and I'm not going to go down being an appeaser like some of the corporations did with America during World War II. I'd rather go down broke and half dead as a man, or stand up with a TV preacher counting money going to Disney World at a luau with weird sensualities and so forth. I'd rather stand up with the poor people as a man. That's the bottom line of Christianity. I don't mind standing up. I don't mind going down with a purpose rather than sitting around eating ice cream and getting fat on luxury like a wimp or a wuss, to put it in American terminology. I'd rather stand up. And my conscience would feel better, just as Patrick Henry or Samuel Adams with his famous speech in front of Matthew Howard, and one of the first people to die for the American Revolution was actually an African American and stuff. Listen, the world's a complicated place, but if I sit in my chair in my home, and I sit around and I just eat ice cream and get fat, and while people around the corner are doing all the work and facing the enemy, how am I going to sleep? Okay, that's the point here. Let's go over the Jesuit vow. I'm going to finish. The shedding of the heretic's blood forgives the soldier's sins. That's the core of the vow, is that the Pope has a secret army that's telling you that they're saying that the Protestants are friends. But in actuality, the Protestant and the Quaker and the Christian, us, we're their enemy, because that's the devil. That's the point. Okay? It's just nothing but the devil. with these Rothschilds and the Queens and all this stuff. It's all one. The Rockefellers. Rockefeller said people develop multiple personalities after attending our rituals. Rockefeller said he has rituals. You've seen the movie, maybe Eyes Wide Shut. These people, they have meetings where they do freaky stuff. I'm not going to go into too many details because I've already done enough speaking what the wicked do and so forth. We've had enough for this lesson. But I have to give you a little more and I'll let you go. So what happens at these Rockefeller rituals? This is from, I think, David Rockefeller's book, who just died. These are Jesuit, demonic, Mason rituals. The Freemasons are tied into all of this, see? They do these wicked rituals. They're the ones. And they're buddies with the Catholics because murderers are friends with murderers. I serve the devil over here, you serve the devil over there, which means we're all one big happy familia. That's the point. A little more, I have to close. Disguise yourself amongst the Protestants. You can go to the Library of Congress, made public in 1883, and you can get this document. That means to spy on people, to incite jealousy and war amongst them. War, Jesus said, blessed are the peacemakers. They say incite war. Are these Christian people, Jesuits and so forth? They're devils. Let's keep going. Even civil war. Charge interest in bank investments and cause wars. The ends justifies the means, is what they're saying here. And let's go to some more quotes. I'm going to stop. And one of the key ones, I'll say it again, is the shedding of the heretic's blood forgives the soldier's sins. I have a picture here, and it has a statue of Loyola stepping on a woman's head. You can see her arms. She's trying to get out from under Loyola's foot. He's crushing her head, and he's getting a halo. I'm not going to show you the picture because I think those pictures are not pictures that you're supposed to share. And I may not have. You have to be careful what you download. That's the point. I have to be careful of that. I might show you anyway. You know, I'm thinking about that right now. So anyway, so this is a warm-up of the Jesuit vow. He hath power to dispose of heretics, princes, states, commonwealths, governments. I denounce anything Protestant, and I join all who destroy the countries that are heretics. I will not submit to any of their laws, any of their regions to destroy their power, because they are damned. Those who forsake and go the Protestant way. This is a sacred covenant with the ghostly Father. See, we go back to this Father thing again. The Holy Father. And by the way, their English is bad. Their syntax is all mixed up. It doesn't make any sense. Whoever wrote this, same as the Quran, by the way. Whoever wrote that thing, the grammar is just really, really bad. I will extirpate from the earth with no care for age. I will wipe out completely with no care for age. They're saying they're going to wipe out children, the Jesuit oath. We don't care. Who wrote this and how did it become so popular? And who would take this vow to wipe out people and children at any age? Who would consider this something legitimate or normal? What you're dealing with here is the popularity of abnormal psychology. That's my point. The popularity of wickedness in thousands and thousands of people who take this oath. Any sex, any race, I will hang and burn, waste, and I will flay and strangle. I will even bury them alive. rip up the stomachs and wombs of their children, crush their infants' heads against the wall in order to annihilate the race. This, okay, poison, strangle, all this for the Pope. And do you think that this oath is something that only a few people read? 2 people? No. This was read by thousands and thousands of people, and they took the oath. I'm just about done. I'm going to get sick. So Mr. Loyola, around 1600, he starts this. And by the way, Queen Elizabeth and some other people, they were familiar with some of this stuff, and they became enemies of this stuff, and they spoke against it. And they were heralds who spoke against and opposed a lot of the stuff I'm reading to you, and they were taken out, a lot of them. So you can see why the Muslim connection is so strong to the Catholic, especially the Jesuits, because it's the same wording. Now I have pictures here, and I'm going to let them go. You can go online. I don't know if some of these pictures are still available. I have Hitler here shaking hands with the head cardinal in 1933, and they're smiling at each other. That's a harlot. See, I know Christ, but a guy who says burn people alive, women and children, and so forth, he's my buddy. I have a picture of Hitler kneeling before a Catholic priest. I have a bunch of the cardinals Heil Hitlering here. I have a bunch of pictures here. And I'm not going to show them to you because these people have rights and stuff. But I'm just sharing with you that it's all out now. And I don't know if those pictures are available or not. If I don't see them online in the next year or two, I might just put them back online. Because a picture is worth 1,000 words. Hitler actually shaking hands with the Pope's head cardinal, whatever, and signing an agreement with this guy. I cannot begin to tell you some of the horrific things that Hitler told his men to do. We're done, okay? It boggles the mind. I mean, case in point, one more note. When they were leaving Paris, Hitler told them to bomb and kill as many people as you can on the way out. Like the word extirpate here. If someone came to me and told me that we're going to kill people and rip their stomachs open, whatever, and even women with babies, whatever, and they told me that that's my job and this is going to please the Pope, I would have said, you know what, tell the Pope to come here because I'm going to kick his butt or something. I mean, you know what? When do you start fighting back? I mean, no. You think I'm going to help you? No. I want to take you out. But see, we don't do that, do we? No. Jesus is the one who defends our rights and everything. He's more than enough to handle it. And he's going to take out the trash at the end of Revelation chapter 18. Rejoice over her, ye heavens. We have 4 hallelujahs in the next chapter, and we have us coming back on horses because we're blessed in order to come back with Jesus Christ when he wipes all these people out who make these vows and all this stuff. It's time to take out the trash. The Lord's going to take all these people out who are the bad people of the Vatican and so forth. Flee Babylon, you who are a part of Babylon. Get out of there. That's Jeremiah's lesson on the Vatican, the great harlot. That's enough. We don't need any more negativity. That's enough for the day. We're going to get into some good stuff here next. This is Jeremiah signing off, saying shalom, and may the Lord bless you and keep you, and make his face to shine upon you. And listen for the voice of God, for the trump of the archangel, when in a moment, in a twinkling of an eye, the dead in Christ shall rise first out here, and we who are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them to meet them in the air and to forever be with the Lord. Comfort one another with these scriptures. Yeah, I'm comforted. Woo, let's get out of here. I don't want to hear about this stuff anymore. How this Jesuit vow could become so popular. Probably John Wilkes Booth took the vow. Who shot Kennedy, probably. I mean, Lincoln. I don't think Kennedy was shot, by the way. That's my opinion. I'm not going to go into that. I think that was a dummy. Let's move on. The Lord bless you and keep you. And that's it for this lesson. The great harlot, the Vatican. I've given you enough evidence to show you that I think that Rome is the great harlot. And the Lord wouldn't let me do this probably unless we're getting ready to wrap it up, because they have to remain popular in order for them to take over. Okay? The lie has to be strong. But for a few Christian people who are going to get into this, their eyes are going to be open, and the Lord wants to show you that because you knelt down before the Lord, and He loves you because you're submitted to Him. And He's going to give you some information that most people don't get. The love of the Lord opens up everything. It opens up believing all things. You don't need faith books. Don't buy them. You cultivate the love of the Lord and you'll believe everything. Because love believes all things. It doesn't mean that you can't get into some faith teachings. That's not the point. The point is, for the most part, you don't need it. You will believe in the gospel, the death, burial, and resurrection. You'll believe that Jesus Christ is God and man, and that He is I am, so that you don't die in your sins. You believe that you must honor the Son, John chapter 5, as you honor the Father. See? You believe that marriage is sacred and that adultery is bad. And adultery can be performed by a Christian. They can slip back into adultery. They can slip back into drunkenness. The point is that we teach everything and we believe everything. I believe David killed Goliath. I believe that God said in the beginning, that God created the heaven and the earth. The heaven, the earth. No outer space, nothing. The only space is between the heaven and the earth. That's what the Bible teaches. So I don't have any problem believing. I believe I'm healed when I go to see the elders. That's what James said do. James didn't say buy a book to be healed. He said do what? Go to the elders. Is that complicated? No, it's not. I believe the book of Revelation. I believe all this stuff because I actually love the Lord. You get the point? This is Jeremiah signing off finally. Shalom.